The Adventure Jogger, a podcast about trail and ultra running. Meet fascinating runners from the front, middle, and back of the pack, sharing inspiring and funny stories about life and running. Running should be fun, and so should running podcasts. I'm your host, Stephen Kornhaus, and this is The Adventure Jogger. Well, on today's episode of the Adventure Jogger podcast, I've got another gentleman coming to us from Canada, and second guest in a couple of weeks from Canada. So happy to have Anatoly Ross on the Adventure Jogger podcast. Welcome, Anatoly.
Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's been, I think, since Leadville in 2023 that we saw each other, I believe.
2024, I believe.
24. Oh, right. Yeah.
The recent one.
Right.
Yeah. The 23 didn't go well for me. Well, there was certain circumstances that led that not finish, but apparently organization were nice to me, and they let me enter first I've tried to the lottery, and they said if lottery is not lucky for you, then we'll let you in regardless.
Yeah. Well, for those that might have seen my Leadville video from the race in 2023, I mentioned, I just came across you helping a injured runner down part of the trail, and it took a long time to get that runner back to the aid station, and so you lost a lot of time aiding an injured runner. So kind of gave up your race to help someone else.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much time I spent down there, but to me, it felt long. And he just needed some more psychological support. He got just dislocated shoulder, and because we were close to the aid station, so I said probably we're not gonna try to reduce it, because it's better to be reduced at facilities that really specialize in those things than to do it on trail. So walking with him and trying to keep his mind away from his injury, and eventually one of the volunteers stepped in, and she took over from there.
Yeah, well, luckily they let you back in for 2024, because I do remember seeing you there now when I was out recording one of my buddies. I remember seeing you out there on the course now. Yeah.
Yes, they were nice to me. A few emails back and forth, but our organization was very nice. And I think it's very good ethics of trail running. We got it here actually in Canada, one of the races, not running races. It's a Canadian ski marathon. They get the same ethics. And we actually carry the small card with your name on it. So if you stop to help injured skiers, and you come into the next refueling station not in time and far away in time, they let you pass through and let continue. So you put the name of injured skiers on that card, time you spent with him, her, and they will let you continue the race regardless. And even if you don't finish on time, your first day will be counted. Yeah, so we got.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's official. On that, it's not a race. It's Canadian ski marathon, which is 100-mile race. 50 miles and 50 miles, 2 days, and you sleep in the field. But that's a different story. It's not a running.
That sounds awesome, though. That's really cool that they do that and let you continue on and count you as a finisher.
It's official in the rules of the race.
That's awesome.
You carry that card if you stop to help someone, and it's very well respected.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. That's something that a lot of race organizations should pick up here in the United States as well. I mean, if you're stopping to aid a fellow runner, I mean, that's huge. They should reward that. Yeah. Well, Anatoly, I want to go back several years, a while, I guess, and kind of hear all about like your running journey. Like, how did you get into the sport of running? Was it first in like grade school, or was it much later in life?
Oh, it was almost more than 50 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It was, probably I was 9 or close to age of 10. And we got a track and field. And back in my country, it was a sports school. It's not a part of the high school where I was. It was completely different part of the sports school. It was completely sponsored by government, and I didn't have to pay for any fee for any trainer or anything else. So I just dropped in myself with no mother at the age of 9 or 10, and I asked one of the coaches down there if I could join running. He looked at me and like that. I don't know how they pick the people, but he said sure. So I was very, very, very skinny at that time. So he said, perhaps you're gonna run well. So that was the start. And then that progressed until of age of 17. So basically I ran for somewhere close to 8 years track and field. The start at that age was rather a bit slow because you're a kid, but it was very intense and very competitive, very competitive. So 8 years, I progressed very well. That was
Wow.
track and field, and yeah, that was beginning of my journey. Yeah, at times we trained twice a day. It was very intense. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like it, especially for that age.
So yeah, later on. So first when we started at my young years, so it was just once daily, and then we switched later on, close to when I become teenager. Yeah, it was mostly two times daily. Overall,
Wow.
close to 6 hours.
Wow. That's a lot. Goodness.
Yeah,
Now, was this
a lot.
part? So you said this was separate from your actual like educational school. This was
Correct.
just for running or just for sport.
Correct. That was just sports school. Yeah,
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Now, was this like a program designed to basically build athletes maybe for a Canadian team, like a sports like a team?
that would be very nice if Canadian government would support that idea. But as far as I know, it does not do so. And it
Interesting.
was cost quite a bit of money for parents to support their kids to become one of the greatest, perhaps. But no, back in USSR, where I grew up, it was completely different setup of everything was sponsored by government. You didn't pay basically for anything. Even the races you were going to compete were paid by the government. You didn't pay anything
Wow.
for races, inclusive food and stay, hotels, and so on. Yeah,
Wow.
but
Now, was this school in the USSR or was this in Canada? Like when did you move to Canada?
USSR. I moved to Canada in '92.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that makes more sense then. Okay. So was this a school then in the USSR designed to create athletes for like their national team?
Correct, correct.
Ah, okay.
And if you were very good, then you would be picked up and perhaps invited to top tier sports school. But you have to be really good at to be handpicked, and that will go furthermore to probably even to be competing in Olympics and so on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So after this,
that's how a system worked at that time in USSR. From
interesting.
you'll pick up a lots of people, and then from those people they'll pick up the best ones, and from the best ones they will create uh, two, three, four people, a team of elite. Yes,
Yeah.
it was very competitive.
I bet it was then if it was that type of a program. I imagine it was very competitive. Well, what now you said this was till about 17. So after that, did you go to like a university as a part of a sport program as well?
I did after 17. I worked for 1 year, then I was drawn in mandatory military service for 2 years, and after which was finished by age of 20, and then at the age of 21, I entered medical school. Yeah, uh, yeah, and then I continued to run, but not as much as I used to in medical school, because in medical school priorities were more on academical performance, not your physical performance.
Right.
So it was medical school is medical school. And after that was quite of interruption in my running for quite a few years. Then once I moved to Canada and I had two kids, so things changed and priorities took place. Either you continue to run whatever. I spent 2 or 3 years in triathlon, performed very well. But at that age, I was 32, 33. Um, um, Stay there, but it's you have to choose between your lifestyle, what you want to do, either um, uh, continue your medical degree in Canada and to be recertified, or to do triathlon. It was no brainer.
Yeah. So I imagine I didn't think about that, but that makes sense. So if you were certified in USSR, you had to get recertified for the medical board, I assume, in Canada then to get your licensing and all
was
of that.
a long road and a hard road, and that's completely different talk. But yes, in brief answer, yes, I didn't have to go back to medical school. So medical school was counted as good, everything is good, but you have to pass certain medical exams to be accepted in residency. Plus, because my mother tongue was not, of course, English or French, by the college standards, you have to pass also what we call TOEFL. It's a English grammar, and then TSC as a test of spoken English, which was a little bit of grammar was not a complex to me at that time. I passed it right away, but test of spoken English was a different story, just because of very high requirements on the scoring points from my college of physician and surgeons of Ontario. They require a very, very high score on the spoken English. And I failed once, and then I basically asked for help from linguistics, and English lady who came from UK and was, of course, sure. She said, nothing wrong with your English. Perhaps your performance anxiety kicks in, because test itself 15 minutes, and it's recorded on tape, and tape sent, I believe, to at that time it was sent to New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, to a linguistics center, and to be by two independent scorers, and the score is going to be very, very high, and it's So I had to take it second short to pass that exam. So,
wow, that's really interesting. So, what kind of a medical provider were you? Like, was it a family practice, or were you a surgeon? Like, what was your specialty?
Back in USSR, I finished field in surgery, but right now I'm working as hospitalist and family MD, physician.
Okay.
So I covered, yeah. But yes, I had to go back to medical residency in Canada to be recertified, and they're certified by College of Physician and Surgeons of Canada, and Family Physician College of Canada as well. So it's still, it was quite a stressful, but and it's not a cheap way to not a cheap entertainment to passing those exams.
I imagine so. Now, I know this isn't particularly, running related, but I'm curious, and if it's, something you don't want to discuss, that's totally fine. But what brought you from the USSR to Canada? Like, what made you make that?
I was young and and full of energy. And then a friend of mine who at that time, she lived in Canada, she said to me, look, you're young, and I understand perhaps you like your country very much, but I think it's time to look to move forward. And I said, what do you mean? So she explained to me that all the process of immigration, and I said, well, why not? And at that time, I think USSR was close up to non-existence anymore. It was year of 1992 when it fell apart. So I said, it's not a country that I used to be, and it was not. So,
yeah, wow. So then, do you speak French as well now from being in Canada?
Oh God, Lord, no,
No,
no. my partner, Sylvie, she's actually French.
Right.
I met her a couple of times. Yeah, Sylvie. So she's completely French. For her,
Wow.
English is hard.
So you have a trilingual household.
Yeah, the French probably, I think Russian is a hard language to be spoken, but French is also not a candy.
Wow, that's it. Wow, yeah, I've met Sylvie a couple of times, and I knew she was French, but I didn't know if you spoke French or not, since you know been with Sylvie for so long, or in the country, or happened to pick some phrases up. I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, Canada is a bilingual country, so you don't have to speak two languages. Either one
Right.
is satisfactory, unless you're working for federal government. Then you have to be bilingual.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then after the medical process of getting, recertified in Canada and all, you mentioned the 2 children that you had and kind of priorities shifted. When did you find your way back into running?
It was actually on my second year of my residency in the family medicine. And the block I was doing it was obstetric gynecology block. And one of my staff, he was a very fit guy, but gentleman, but he was not particularly a runner, but he liked to keep in shape. And he knew somehow we started talk about running. And once he knew that I was running, he asked me if I wanted to do Ottawa Marathon. And we were just 2 weeks away. I was 2 weeks away from that race, apparently. And before,
Oh, wow.
it was a long way I ran before, probably, wow, I don't know, sure, 5-6 years.
Oh, my goodness.
I was in shape, but I quit running. It was just studying, and residency also was very a tough thing to do in Canada. And she said to me, "Oh, you get a background in running. You should be fine. 2 weeks is enough." So I ran for a bit for 2 weeks, and then we stepped in on the start line, and but I paid dearly, but I finished it. It was of course time not to be proud of, but I started probably too fast, and my first half was not too bad, but my second half, oh boy, I was lactic acid and I was cramping, but I finished.
Yeah, hey, you finished. That's awesome. No training for other than 2 weeks for a couple of years.
Yeah, that was a start, and then after I finished residency and get a little bit more relaxed, so I picked up after. Yeah, that's when I start. I mean, I run both. I run asphalt. I run gravel on a track, 400 meters loop at that time, and I also run the field in the forest as well. But I didn't like asphalt too much. So
Right.
it was, I never was attracted to asphalt and big cities. So I looked at that time on the computer. I said, let's see what I can find in Canada in terms of get somewhere on them with Mother Nature. And at that time, it was actually my first year in trail running. It was Canadian Death Race.
Ah, yeah. I heard of that one.
In Alberta. It's not a 100 miler. It's somewhere close to 80 miles, 125 kilometers. But unfortunately for me, what happened in that year, I want to really prove that I able to finish 100 miler. And I remember at that time it was Eastern States inaugural race in Eastern States, Pennsylvania, Eastern States 100. It was just their first race, and it was sold out in 2 days. By the time I got on the website to apply, it was sold out. So I was on the waiting list. But I was able to, on the same year, to get into Canadian Death Race. And they accepted me with no return fees whatsoever. So I was in Death Race, and then guess what happened? In 4 weeks later, I got accepted into Eastern States. I look at the dates. and they were just 1 week apart. So
Wow.
I said I wanted 100-miler because it didn't feel like running 125K was good proof that I was able to finish 100-mile. So I signed up for both of them in the same year.
A week apart.
Apart.
So what year was that? What year was that? Would that have been 2015 or was it earlier than that?
No. It was, I believe it was 2012.
2012.
Mistaken, or 2011. I believe it was 2012.
Yeah, I see you had the Canadian Death Race in 2012. I see a time for you there. And then it looks like you ran that one again in 2014 too.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And then but you did run Eastern States in 2012 also?
Correct. And I didn't finish it.
Okay, because I don't see a time for you on this one website here. That's what I was looking. Okay.
It was a DNF after 50 miles.
Okay.
I could feel it right at the beginning of the race that my legs were completely cooked after Canadian Death Race. And
I imagine so.
And the weather in Pennsylvania at Eastern States was not very reassuring at all. It was a year that, it was a very messy race with rain, profound rain in the middle of the race on Eastern States.
Oh,
yes, I was at 50 miles. I was doing okay, but barely okay. I had just half an hour before cutoff time, and my quads were done completely. And that's one of my races problems that I usually don't DNF too many, but that one was completely out of my regions that day.
So what year did you finish your first 100-mile race then? Was that Eastern States in 2015?
Yeah, it was my second attempt on Eastern States that I finished.
Okay.
And
that was 2015, right?
It was, I believe, a year or 2 years. You can look at my profile on Ultra Sign Up, but
right.
Yeah, and that was a bit stressful to me because, again, it was my official first 100 miles again. So I asked a friend of mine to pace me from somewhere halfway.
Okay.
Yeah, so that went well. Again, weather was Eastern States to Eastern States. It's one of the hardest one on eastern parts of United States. Yeah, but
especially that time of year in August, I imagine the humidity was probably pretty high as well.
Very humid, very humid, and that humidity catches just in the pass between the trees, and you like running through the water. You barely can breathe, and yes, and Eastern States, if you can see profile, there's not much flat sections down there. It's either up and down, and terrain is at times technical terrain. It's what they call it on the Appalachian Trail, Rocksylvania.
Right. Yep. Rocksylvania. That's right.
That sounds like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that must have was that the start of your difficult races? Not as far as like your performance, but it seems like you're attracted to the very difficult type of 100-mile distance race, like technical terrain, lots of elevation gain. That seems like, looking over your profile, that seems to be what you're attracted to.
Whatever calls for uphills, I'm in.
Nice. Okay. Because I see, like, it looks like in 2016, you ran the Cruel Jewel, which everyone knows is like 33,000 feet of elevation gain, somewhere around there. Lots of climbing. You also did Grindstone, which again is, I think that's 22,000 feet, maybe a little more. So it's a lot. Eastern States again. So you ran 300-mile races in 2016, as well as the Barkley Fall Classic.
Yeah, and probably next year, 2017, I believe the story repeated itself, and that was a preface of entry to UTMB, because I ran UTMB in 2018, and that UTMB, if you can recall, it was by old rules. I call them old rules. You had to accumulate 15 points just to enter lottery into the race.
Oh, right.
And every 100-miler would give you 5 points. or so. Some of them were giving you 6 points, depends which 100-miler you would run. So I had to finish 300 miles in one season just to get into lottery for UTMB. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so that was 2016 was starting that process?
I believe, yeah, they required a year before or in the previous 2 years. That one I don't know exactly, but I had 18 points when I entered UTMB lottery. And luckily for me at that time, I was drawn into UTMB lottery for 2018.
Yeah. Well, let's stay in 2016 for a minute, because I know the Barkley Fall Classic, was that the first year of the BFC, or was that the second? Was that maybe the second year?
BFC, that was a
because you run that race a lot.
You can see on my profile when it was my first year, but
your first year was 2016, I believe.
Yeah, I remember my first BFC. It was fun and not fun, and it was that's completely different probably talk how I entered BFC, but that started with a big Barkley.
Right.
To preface to entering BFC, and it happened here in Canada when I ran some asphalt still at that time in Canada here in Quebec side with my friends. And one of them mentioned to me about something big Barkley. And I said, let's talk over again. What did you say is this race about? So he said to me, race completely in the woods out of nowhere, and it designed on orienteering. You have to be exactly known where exactly at what time and so on. And it's a 100-miler, and it's a handpicked by Lars. I didn't know Lars at that time. I said, wow. And he said to me, oh, given your military skills, you probably should be good at it. So try if you want to. I said, how do I enter it? Well, he said, I don't know. So he must finish the run. I was on my computer in my office at work, and I couldn't find anything except one thing. So I found essentially the last old address. So I sent him a letter and came back to me saying that this address does not exist at that address anymore. So that was start. Then I started to investigate more about it, and it was, of course, I came across a Barkley Fall Classic. It was like a baby big Barkley with, again, RD was the same guy behind all the skirmishes of Barkley and how many people it killed.
Right, yeah. And so your first experience of that was 2016, and it seems like you've run that pretty much every single year since then. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Wow. So there
was no interruption, even with my badly damaged hip. I was able to finish 10, 15 minutes before cutoff time, before 13 hours, 20 minutes.
Wow.
But that is different animal. It's not for everyone. It's something.
Yeah, you and I have run that race. We both ran it in 2019 and 2020. I remember seeing you out there and talking to you those 2 years.
Yeah.
But it looks like you after doing all this research and trying to find out stuff about the Barkley marathons and finding BFC, but it looks like you were successful because your record does show you ran the Barkley marathons in 2018.
Yeah, that was actually a big year for me. Started actually with a big Barkley. I don't call it Barkley. As you can see, it says Barkley marathons. It's not in singular; it's in a plural.
Right.
So definitely marathons. At least 4 of them down there. I think it's probably 5, if not 4.
Yeah.
But I was on the waiting list from 2017 for a big Barkley, and I was able to enter it 2018. And the big Barkley is a race with a lot of variables.
Oh,
your physical performance, it's far away. It just like it must. it's one of the variables, but not the most that needed down there. The weather plays a huge, huge role on that terrain. It's so
Absolutely.
important as like almost running very well in the front of the pack or not finishing at all and falling back. And at that year, apparently weather was not on everyone's side. We came down there and on top of chimney top, it was 6 inches of snow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 6 inches of snow in the middle of March. And that snow changed to rain on the day of the race. First with the drizzling rain, and then with thunderstorm in the middle of the night on the same day, and pouring rain.
Oh,
And you know the terrain better than I am, probably, that how it's not, it's basically clay.
yeah.
Basically clay underneath. And with the rain, it became
Incredibly slick.
Not only it was clay, it accumulated a lot of clay under your soles, which makes your shoes 2 pounds, each of them heavier,
Right.
and no traction at all. So that was, I was able to finish one loop, but that's where that was ended, and it was over even cutoff time to even to finish 5 loops. So it was 12 hours, 40 minutes and something. And I was completely cooked.
So you did. So you were not. You just chose not to go out for the second loop, or did they time cut you?
I finished. I believe my time was around 12 hours, 50 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
12:48, I don't remember, but close to 13:20. Barely hanging down there to do a fun run.
Yeah.
So, but weather was so bad that we were descending. I remember to finish that loop, it was clockwise, and we were descending chimney top. And those switchbacks, they were completely washed out, completely washed off.
Oh, wow.
These switchbacks, it was just pouring water, and you barely can see like 15, 20 feet ahead of you with a good headlamp. It was foggy, watery, and I came to the camping grounds, and they played the music for me.
Yeah, that's why you got to experience it.
Close to the gate, yes. I was one. The music playing non-stop. I believe just Gary, what's his name? I forgot his name. My good friend from Canada. He was able to finish 3 loops, but not on time.
Gary Robbins?
Yeah, Gary Robbins.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So was that your, you've run Barkley before, another time, haven't you? Or was that the only time you ran?
I was on the waiting list, but I was already injured, and I have to give up my spot. I have to give up my spot on the waiting list.
Okay. But then, of course, you have lots of experience with the BFC, and like you said, but then also in 2018, you said that's the same year you ran UTMB, but you also ran Old Dominion, BFC, Big's Backyard Ultra. So it was a very busy year for you.
Yeah, that's a lot of mileage.
Right, and a lot of elevation gain.
A lot of mileage on my tires.
Yeah. Well, how was your experience at UTMB?
UTMB at that time, it was, I call it original UTMB because, as you know, right now it's under guidance of Ironman.
Right.
UTMB was great. It was, I have no regrets that I choose to run it because you can decline it on your entry after lottery, accept it or decline it. And I said, it's probably once only experience in my lifetime is going to be given my age and all the travel required and so on. It was all right. I traveled to, I landed in Switzerland, took the bus to, from Switzerland to Chamonix, France. And then I spent 7 days near Airbnb on a little bit of elevation to prepare myself for a race. And it was a great experience, but most of parts of that race, at least for me, it was in nighttime. So you don't see much of beautiful views.
Right.
Race itself starts at 6 o'clock in the evening in Chamonix into nighttime. And then you start in Chamonix, going into Italy, crossing Italy, and then going in Switzerland and back to France.
You had.
Go ahead.
I was just say you had a pretty good time. 38 hours at UTMB it's a pretty solid time.
Yeah, again, even at that time, I was already injured, but I don't know what it was. But my right knee was not playing very well, so I on downhill runs I had to slow down significantly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was catching up people on the much of climbing, but on downhill, the was all in reverse. So the 38 hours, it was not a bad time. Could be faster if not my knee, and I ran completely clean, 100% alpine style. If you know what it means, alpine style, it means no poles, no poles.
Oh, okay.
So,
wow, that's impressive for that race.
Yeah. So, I finished it. I remember finishing it. It was like I was on adrenaline after 2 nights of not sleeping, and so exactly was 2 nights because first night into night, and then you come into the second night. And that morning, I remember it was descent into the city, and my quads were completely full of lactate. It was just frozen like granite, and something just woke up in me. I was start descent, roll downhill gently, and all my quads wake up, and I was able to stretch them on the go as while running. And my last probably 3 or 4 miles, I just smoke it. I was exhausted just probably 2 hours ago on that race, but that was my how I finished that race. And you coming into the city, and even though it was morning for me, it was morning for me, but people down there is such much of support. They were just along that street that leads into the finish line, and they were all screaming, yelling at you.
It seems like such an amazing experience to finish into Chamonix like that. Just like you said, so many people cheering you on. It's just, I can only imagine it's got to be such a cool experience.
Correct. That's a beautiful city, and it's a great city just to see itself, even if you're not racing. There's a lots. I mean, beautiful views.
Right.
And it's basically suited just, I would call it a crater in the mountains when you basically looking out of your windows, and you basically surrounded mountains on all 4 sides. It's all mountains around, and the city just at the base of the mountains. So views are just breathtaking. It was great. Lots of traveling and time zone change. It's 6 or 7 hours of time zone change.
Yeah.
It's but it was nice. It was nice.
Well, then I want to talk about in 2019, you ran the Pikes Peak Ascent. Now, was that your first race in Colorado?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Ascent. It's all, like I said before, whatever goes up attracts me very much.
And you did really, really well. I mean, you finished in 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is a really solid time.
Yeah, it was, to enter, as you know, right now, for the Pikes Peak requires the staging which corral you're starting at.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I had no previous time, so my corral was almost last one.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You had a lot of people. You probably passed a ton of people.
Yes, and I was held off by ton of people because the trails that goes on Manitou climb, as you know, you run on this side of that Manitou climb, and it just no pass. It just
very narrow.
So I have to hold off there for a couple of minutes until I could get higher up to pass people.
Yeah, I can imagine in the marathon when you have people turning around and coming back down, like that's just got to be so hectic as like a leader trying to get down the trail fast when you've got so many people coming up. It's got to be just
Correct.
horrible.
It's horrible, but yeah, I finished that race. I felt great, and I finished my I was first in my age group at that time, and I believe somewhere I think top 50, top 60, or top 70 overall.
Yeah. It says 58th overall is what Ultrasonic says. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's really good because it's a race where it draws a lot of people every year too. Some really
yeah,
strong athletes.
yeah. Around the second time, already injured a year later or 2 years later, I don't remember, but
I think it was 21.
yeah, and that day didn't go well. I got a cramp in my gracilis on the both side.
Uh,
First one and the second one, and I had to stretch myself for a good 15 minutes. So,
yeah. Now,
so
what year was it you started like having pains in your hip? Because I know you had a hip resurfacing done, but when was it you started having these pains?
that happened to me. How I get into Colorado in the first place. Um, I was running. It was a grindstone,
Okay.
grindstone 100. That's also one of the races. Only one of the races here probably that starts at into nighttime, at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I met this nice gentleman. He became my good friend, and at that time he lived in Colorado then. And both of us were suffering on that grindstone at the end. We were barely walking, and our thighs were completely, we were beaten up. So we decided to stick together, and we finished together. And he was from Colorado, and we started to talk about Colorado. And I said, "Damn, I love those mountains." And he said something like that. "Oh, Colorado is down." That was always his. But he said, "You're welcome. You're welcome to come, and we're gonna run together. I'll show you around." And and next year I said, "Then I'm coming." So I jumped in my car next year, and that's how I get in Colorado. It was probably a good 8 years back. That's how. And then I met my another friend, Val, also from there, and was three of us that we run many times Snowmass Loop and a few other trails down there. It was a long time ago.
Well, when did you start finding those hip pains? Was that during grindstone when you
Yeah,
had it?
during those runs, what happened? I'm trying to pinpoint. That's why I took a little pause. I'm trying to pinpoint what year it was exactly. I believe it was one of those runs that were descending some trail on Snowmass Loop, and I got caught between my foot got caught between the roots, and I kind of yanked. It was high deceleration, and I kind of yanked, pull my hip, kind of felt like yanked out of the place on
Ooh.
my right side. And I didn't start. I kind of stopped for a few seconds, limped, and I felt it kind of settled, but it just it just never settled after that. I took probably 2-3 months off after that run, coming back to Canada, but the discomfort was always there. And I blamed it as like, sprain, tendonitis. So, a lot of things could go wrong with that yanking your hip with your foot
Right.
stuck in the tree roots. But it never resolved. And, with my line of work and we've been busy, I never looked for help. It's like, I said, it's gonna go away. I said, it's gonna
Oh,
go
wow.
away. And I was continuing to run, but it was never going away, and it was getting worse. Until I met my partner, Sylvie. And then she started to kick my butt. That it's enough, she said. You have to be investigated.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I started with X-ray. X-ray didn't look good. We get proceed to MRI, and MRI came with labral tear, but also stating there was significant osteoarthritis down there as well,
Oh, wow.
almost bone on bone. So I knew very well that fixing labral tear won't resolve the issue. However, yeah, I wanted to try because I had to wait for major surgery for resurfacing. If it's gonna happen almost more close, like to 2 year time.
Oh,
So
wow.
first I went to try to fix what was fixable in a quick way. So I underwent arthroscopic procedure to try to fix labral tear, but it didn't change anything.
And what year was that?
And so I got my surgery 23, I believe it was 2022. 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that must have been, because I remember running into you and Sylvie on the top of Bird Mountain at Frozen Head State Park.
Yeah. On
Yeah.
on the Bird Trail.
Right.
Bird Trail.
Yeah.
We were walking. I was showing her all around.
Right, but
because
I remember you were saying
next year she wanted to try run Barkley Fall Classic.
Right. Yeah. But I remember you saying that I think you were very soon having your hip surgery because you were out there in some pain still, but you were like supposed to be having a surgery very soon, I believe.
Yeah. So it was either my resurfacing or we met. It was what month was that? I don't remember.
I don't remember. It was winterish. Like it might have been somewhere around like March time frame, like maybe Barkley-ish time.
Yeah. So anyway, it was close to my surgery time. Probably I underwent already arthroscopic procedure, and so it was in between two surgeries, and I was scheduled because my resurfacing happened on the March 13, 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you tried the labral repair route or the reconstruction route, didn't work, and then ended up having the
reconstruction would be fine, but it was a long waiting period in Canada. It's not like in US, you pay money or your insurance pay, you can get reconstruction in 2 weeks or 3. Right. In Canada, because healthcare paid by taxpayers, so everyone lined up in a line. And for my type of resurfacing, instead of total hip replacement, it has to be submitted with special application from orthopedic surgeon. So I had to wait another 2 months for that to be approved because of the cost. Yeah.
Wow. And then, so you had that in 2023 was the hip resurfacing.
March 15. In a few months, it's going to be exactly 2 years.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy impressive if it was March 2023 because you ran the Wasatch 100 and the Barkley Fall Classic in September of 2023.
Correct.
Wow, that's a quick turnaround.
Wasatch was not even 6 months after my surgery. 1 week short after 6 months after my surgery.
Wow. How did it go for you? Did you have pain in the hip at all, or?
And that is no, we even don't count 50 miles that I finished on Leadville. On the same.
That's right. Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I DNF'd at 50 miles at Leadville. I made it to Winfield and was 30 minutes short. Yeah, Wasatch is again is different animal. Wasatch is it's nice race. It's nice race, but boy, if you call it Pennsylvania, Rocksylvania, that trail just all in the rocks.
Oh my goodness.
In Wasatch, yes, but Wasatch is a different race. It's a very hard race, especially with that cutoff time. But it was my second Wasatch actually.
Yeah. But I mean, that's short after your hip resurfacing. I mean,
Yeah,
did the race?
I finished at Versace on probably on tons of Tylenol, but
Oh,
yeah, it was the same on my first try in Leadville. After 4 or 5 hours, my hips start to, I could feel it very much. And every 3, 4 hours, I have to pop another Tylenol, another Tylenol.
oh,
Yeah, but
goodness.
you have to
Well,
how much of Tylenol you're taking. So
yes,
that,
absolutely. But it seems like though that, this hip resurfacing worked, pretty darn well for you because 2024, you ran one of the grand slams of ultra running. Which slam is this? Because it's 500-mile races. Do you know the name of this slam? I'm pretty sure it has a name, right?
and I call it hard rocky Grand Slam.
Yeah, because I mean, not only was it, some 100-mile races, but like you just alluded to, it's one of them was the Hard Rock. You had Old Dominion, Hard Rock 100, Vermont, Leadville, and then Wasatch, and then you just happened to close out the year with the Barkley Fall Classic. So, I mean,
It was yeah, it was well, I don't know how well hard rock is a hard rock. Once you draw in the lottery, if you're gonna decline it, you have to start from scratch. So
yeah.
and in my case, I had to wait 8 years,
Oh,
which
wow.
what I've learned from hard rock, it's not the longest time. Some people waiting for 10 years, 11 years, and I believe record is 12 or 13 years
Oh my goodness.
for some people. But yeah, so I was drawn in the hard rock. I knew in December in lottery of hard rocks that I was in the hard rock. Uh, so yes, I had to. I decided to be very gentle on myself. I knew that my hip after 4 or 5 hours, regardless of resurfacing, will let me know that is not happy. That what's happening on many trails that are around here in Canada, it's always would kick in on technical terrain even after 2 hours. Pain would come back. Not as bad as was on my damaged hip, but again, it was something that I have to keep in mind that it's not going to be an easy year for me. Uh, so I decided to be better, to be undertrained than to get myself in some injury or to deal with the pain
Right.
for the rest of the year. Old Dominion, and I was willing to sacrifice my Grand Slam, but to finish Hard Rock, just to start with.
Right.
Old Dominion to me it was automatic acceptance because I ran it once under 24 hours. Uh, so yes, I was on waiting list and I got accepted automatically close to the sprint. Vermont, I got rollover from previous year. Um, and I got accepted down there as well. Then Leadville, they were nice to me, as I mentioned. They let me in. And Versace, as you know, they get automatic acceptance if you finish your first 3 races. So they will let you in, even if if you're even not lucky in the lottery for Versace. But to me, it was non-relevant because I got lucky in lottery for Versace that year. So I don't have to ask for my way in.
Oh,
And
wow.
you worried too much. So I was lining up straightforward for all 5 of them at the same time. But yeah, Old Dominion was, I mean, all of them are stressful because, as you know, you cannot fail even the single one.
Right.
All of them, are stressful. And Old Dominion, it was a start. And first 4 or 5 hours, I felt great. It starts with a flat for probably the first 5 miles, and then it's steep ascent that leads to more flats, and then in between small bumps. It's nothing technical. Old Dominion, it's a fast race. Met John Kelly down there. He was that year there. He's the guy who won that race, and whole family was there. So we chit-chatted for a bit. And I slept in my car, woke up next day, started the race. 4 or 5 hours, my hip kicked in. It was not happy. Tylenol every 4 hours. But I was able to pull it off. Again, uphills was saving me down there, and then at the end of the race, like 2-3 hours before, I felt good and I was able to run. But then for some reason, I developed blister over my Achilles on the right foot, and that started to develop very quickly into almost no go. So I tried to patch with a Band-Aid and so on, but I was able to pull it off like 20 minutes before end time.
Wow. Well, so moving on to the Hardrock then. I mean, after 8 years of waiting and trying to get into this race, and you've got your Hardrock finisher jacket on right now, I can tell. That had been a pretty special experience after that long of waiting to be able to run this race you've been trying for so long.
Yes. In my mind, it was like, anything happens, but I'm not going to quit there. Anything happens, I'm not going to quit there. And I felt good. It has the same cutoff time as UTMB is 48 hours, I believe. UTMB, I believe, is still 48 hours. If I'm not
I think so.
And I felt, with my work, it was a big stress because I could not take too many days straight forward, and to run Hardrock in the nicest way, you have to acclimatize properly.
Right.
And the older you get, the more time you need for that. So I came with my partner. We drove straight to Leadville. It's not my first time in Leadville. I love that city with all my heart, and we stayed on the camping grounds nearby the Mount Massive, Mount Elbert. So that was my training grounds for Hardrock and acclimatization. One day Mount Massive, another day Mount Elbert.
Nice.
One day Mount Massive as fast as I can, another day as fast as I can Mount Elbert.
Wow.
But I got my personal FKT down there. Like I said, on one day I ran Mount Massive from trailhead to the top in under 2 hours.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I just was timing myself and see how I feel about it. But again, my hip always was, after 2-3 hours, I could feel it. So I said I had to deal with that. I knew that it always going to be there.
What were you feeling in the hip in those times? Was it like just a dull aching, or what kind of pain were you feeling?
It starts like feeling like your hip is jammed. It's not that just your range of motion you could do, but it feels like just tight. Imagine you feel like inside of your hip getting tight, and tighter and tighter and tighter, and that feeling eventually goes in a little bit of pain, and that little bit of pain goes gradually more pain, and more pain.
Oh, goodness.
And what I found out, I don't know, but as much as I like my uphills, the uphills sets what was causing much of that pain. My downhills, actually, after my hip surgery, I started to run downhills much faster than the other.
Interesting.
Yeah,
because I thought that would have been backwards.
I didn't feel the pain on downhills at all. So, or at least probably 1 out of 10. That was like I said, I'm still trying to find out how is it going to be working for me. But there was small complication down there, and that's probably I'm going to leave with that. It's called heterotopic calcification. So beside my there's a small bone formation close to my ceramic hardware. Yeah,
interesting. Okay.
It's known complication, but I think it plays some part out of it. But there's no go for surgery for that one.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, but my surgeon said it could be too complex, and I might not return to running at all.
Oh, wow.
So I said we're not gonna do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna live with that. But that's a story. Back to Hardrock. We traveled to Leadville by car. Car was my house, home, and everything else.
What kind of car was it?
Toyota RAV4 V6.
Okay. Wow.
So
So you're sleeping in the back of it.
it got juice, so it was good in the mountains to me. So it's a very reliable car. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's still a good car to travel. Yeah. So I liked my camping grounds. On the camping grounds, it's probably my year number 6 or 5. I remember, but I always stay on those camping grounds. Um, Fresh air, everything is cool. Mother Nature, everything that you wish for, at least.
Yeah.
Then what was probably 3 days before the race, we traveled to Silverton.
Yep.
The city of
That's where the race starts, right?
Hardrock. Yes, that's where it starts. My good friend Tomo, you might know him, Tomakazu Ihara from Japan.
Yeah.
So he was very interested in, of course, Hardrock because it's a long waiting list to run the race. And as we know, once you click age of 60, as I did at that year, you can have a pacer for whole way. You can have just one for whole way, or you can have as many pacers as you want, but from start until the end. So he was kind to me, and probably it was also his interest to see what's the Hardrock about. So he was my pacer from beginning until the end, and then yeah, and then Sylvia and another friend of mine from Colorado, they were crewing for us on the aid stations, and probably I was too much excited about Hardrock. I was too much excited about Hardrock, and probably, yeah, I usually in my races I'm good with my pacing. I know where to run faster, where to run slower, and so on. But that day I felt so good from beginning that probably I got good acclimatization. So at least at the level of Silverton, I didn't feel too much of any lung problems. And I started probably too fast for my liking. Even Thomas said to me that I have to come down a little bit. But what I was afraid of that my hip is going to kick in, and I could not at all. So I said to him, Thomas, I have to catch up my time until the hip started to act up, and I probably could not run at all, and I had to hike all the way in. Fortunately, it gave me some problems, but not as much on that terrain as I anticipated. And I could run some downhills. So it was like in and out. At some point, I could feel it. Then it would just come down. At some way, it could feel it, and then it would come down. I apply also special cream, heating cream, with capsaicin, right directly on the hip to kill the pain and not to abuse Tylenol too much. And it seems worked well, but again, I just exhausted myself because as we know, I didn't put any volume. I couldn't put any volume for this year, and probably for many years ahead, if it's going to be given to me, the volume is gone. I won't be able to do volume. The most I can run, 2-3 hours, and then I could feel my hip. Walking is a different story. Does not bother me too much. Bless you.
Well, so you mentioned before that you felt the hip more on the uphills, but you could run some downhills. And, Hardrock obviously has, I forget what the total is, but like 30, 36,000 feet of elevation, something in that line.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uphill.
A lot of uphills, but how did I know that my uphills? I tried on a treadmill. So I tried on a treadmill at 20 as the steepest I can get on treadmill incline, and that what was bringing up my pain. So if I run on treadmill at say incline 2 or 3, it does not bother me. I probably could run even more than 4 hours. But once I start to do incline and past 10, that's why the pain start to accumulate. That's why I knew that was going to happen. But again, all depends also probably on the pace, because like for example, Albert or Massive that I did in my training, it did not bother me too much on uphill. But again, there's no way you're gonna run them all the way up. Maybe some people can, but to me it was very, very fast hiking. So again, I could feel my hip, but it was not too bad. And during the Hardrock, that what happened on probably at least on the second half of the race, because we just hiked very fast uphills, whatever we could, and just descending whatever we can as fast as we can.
Yeah,
that was a play. And Toma did a great patient with me. Probably what he was fed up with old man. Because I was too slow with him. And my crew was also very good. Sylvia and Peter, they supported us greatly during those times.
I say, but you made it back into Silverton though, and you got to kiss the rock. And
the hardest part probably was on the Hardrock. On the hardest part was climbing out from Cunningham Gulch. That was like, I'm good with climbing. I love climbing, but it was terrible. I felt just exhausted. And I don't know if they changed the route on the top once you climb out from the Cunningham Gulch, but on the top, I was there before, and I knew that it's supposed to go to the left, and it should not be technical. Instead, of went to the right, and it was descent. It was descent at some places so narrow, not in a good way. Narrow that at one on your left side, it was completely dropped, like 100 feet below, and on your on your right side, it was a wall, and the pass itself was like 3-4 feet, and it was under the counter, and it was just the dust on the trail. You slide and you slide, and there's nothing gonna fall down you.
I've seen, so you're like up against the wall. Like,
I've seen a couple of runners exactly glued to the wall, and their pacers were talking to them just to keep going. And one girl just was glued to the wall, standing down there. And I just supported myself with a pole on the left side and just bypass it. But yes, so some trail down there is a little bit too technical, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of exposure.
A lot of exposure, yes, but it's beautiful. Once you run in the daytime, and you see those mountains, and you see how beautiful it is, you forget about pain. You basically forget about the pain.
Yeah, right.
You do your best. I got a couple of cramps down there that also slowed me down. Tomo helped me to stretch my quads, and we just would go. It was short and long. I try to recall a memory, and it's almost like non-existent. Yeah, thinking 2 nights of no sleep is is taking toll on you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you got the Hardrock finisher jacket, you kissed the rock, you finished in 45 and a half hours, so you were well under cutoff.
Well,
And you got
yeah,
it done.
I didn't come in the last hour, but again, it was RD is just fabulous down there, and Dale, yeah, as well. All people down there is a great family, great support. Yeah, we went on a pre-race mandatory meeting, and yeah, the great family, great support. Yeah, unfortunately for some of us, it takes a long time to get into it.
Yeah. Well, you had this awesome year in 24. You had all the Grand Slam, you had the Barkley Fall Classic. It was a phenomenal year. You finished all of them. What's next in 2025? Like, what are your goals this year?
Oof, I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna come down on um, Barkley Fall Classic. Actually, I didn't finish. I DQ'd on Barkley Fall Classic, but that's a long talk, and probably uh, 1 hour won't be enough. But that's all technicalities, but it's completely my fault, and that's what happened. I finished the trail. I finished the race, but I broke some rules that I shouldn't have. But that's
Okay.
that was the years that led me. One thing led to another things, and then you lost attention, and things happened, and that led to me to be DQ'd on the Barkley Fall Classic. But I finished.
Interesting.
It's still it's still on my tires. Smile is still on my tires.
I did see that it said on Ultrasonic, it did show a DQ, and I was going to ask you about that because I was really curious, with your experience at that race, and that was your, I think, eighth or ninth year running the BFC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I mean, can you give us a Reader's Digest version, like a real short version, or is that for an off?
One of the rules on the Barkley Fall Classic, you cannot wear a GPS device on you. You cannot carry a GPS device on you, and
Right.
God forbid, and if somewhere something's gonna be posted about the race, never mind whole race um, trail or whatever mileage or whatever you run.
Right.
So I came after my Passage. All my races I drove. I didn't fly to any of them. So it was a huge mileage on my brain
Wow.
and on my legs. And yeah, I stayed with my friend in Colorado for a couple of days after Passage, cool down, just take my sip of the air. Drove back to Canada. Took me quite a few days. Jump. I had to do 1 week as hospitalist. Take care of my property here, and my car was like, I came from Massage. It was the same as was, and usually for BFC, I got all package already clean and dry from my previous year because my Barkley Fall Classic is the same clothing from year to year. Nothing changed down there. And
Sure.
and 3 days before Barkley Fall Classic, I jumped in the car, and again, 2 days of driving to Tennessee. Came to my good friend's house, Brian and Evelyn Young. That's I usually stay with them all my years down there.
Yeah.
And
Great guy.
I start to prepare for next day, and I didn't discover my watch, my regular watch for Barkley Fall Classic. So the only watch was left in my car. It's my Versace watch, which was Garmin 6, Phoenix Garmin 6 Pro. Whatever. Yeah. So I didn't have anything in mind. So I slept next morning. I slept watching my race, started the race, my timing, and so on. I finished the race, and short story, I came back home and everything is good. And I said, let me see what my total time for this year and so what I finished. And I don't see my name on the Barkley Fall Classic. I said, it's kind of some weird stuff, mistake and so on. And then I see myself DQ'd. So I get in touch with RDs, Steven and Laz, and apparently somebody pulled the data on me that it sounds like I posted from my Garmin watch data on Barkley Fall Classic.
Oh, wow.
What I didn't know, that apparently your own watch could be spying on you, and it's exactly what it was. So I was quite surprised. So I contacted Garmin and asked them what, how is it possible? Because it should. However, if you own a Garmin and to load up the data, you have to load up Garmin Connect on your phone. That's how data from your phone transferred to Garmin Connect. On Garmin Connect, what I learned later on after Barkley Fall Classic, there's many options for your privacy. 5 options, or 4 if I'm not mistaken. Your data very private and cannot be seen by anyone, or your data very not private and exposed to public.
Right.
And apparently by default from Garmin Connect, it's always public. You have to go into settings and reset whole Garmin Connect, which is for old men. At that time, I didn't know. I never I need some Garmin Connect. To me, it just was to see my mileage and so on. So I
Right.
went to Garmin Connect and looked into it. But what I realized as well, it's not that simple, say Strava. On the Strava, I understand that anyone can see you on the Strava if you say okay for Strava. On the Garmin Connect, you have to search by name. So it's not so simple. You just click Barkley Fall Classic and your name just going to appear down there. It's not that simple. You have to search by name to get your data. So that way I was exposed. So somebody searched my name and that's how my data was exposed. But anyhow, that last DQ, unfortunately, total my fault. However, I see every year people running with their cell phones,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it's GPS device. No one
Yep.
get DQ'd. No one get DQ'd for that one ever.
Oh, yeah. I saw people running with GPS watches in 2020, I think it was. I saw
Yes,
it.
lots of people. But as far as not showing up anywhere, I understand that's how it was okay.
Okay.
Everyone, but the old
All
man
right. Well,
that is not good with electronics, or I don't know. So that led to DQ, but again, it's my fault. No one to blame, but just my. Yeah.
okay. Well, what's on the plan then for this year? Then did you say you are coming back for the BFC?
That's to be decided if I'm going to apply to BFC or not. We'll see how's it go. Maybe Pikes Peak, Pikes Peak Ascent.
Okay.
Then what's left is Western States. So this year I was not lucky, or maybe I would say I was lucky. It would be lots of trouble. Instead of driving to Old Dominion, which is just 8 hours for me, imagine driving to California.
That's got to be a 2-3 day drive.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like to drive across the country to see people and things. But it was 64 tickets from you this year. So next year it will be 128. But as you know, you have to run qualifier.
Right.
So probably looking up probably at the end of the season, maybe no business.
Okay.
No business 100. I've been there once.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Okay.
Supporting my partner.
Yep, that's right. Well, that registration opens in a couple of days. It opens on February 1st at noon Eastern time.
I'm gonna wait. I'm. You see, I just started back to running just a couple of weeks ago. Since BFC, I didn't run. I didn't run at all. I finished BFC end of September, so October, November, December, for 3 months, I didn't run at all.
Oh, wow.
Right now, I just do indoor cycling. I'm on Zwift and with Wafu. So my cardiovascular basically for 3 months was basically just cycling.
Yeah. Well, good. Did you feel that's helped you maintain that cardio level pretty well?
Cardiovascular, yes, but it's different. You see, with the cycling, my hip, it does not touch me at all.
Right.
I'm fine. Not at all. My flexibility is there, back, no pain at all. I can push very high heart rate, and that's what it's going to be. And but it's different for running, especially with the Pikes Peak. It requires a lot of ascent. So
A lot of uphill.
we're working on it. So
Yeah.
Pikes Peak, no business. Probably applying to Western states for next, but definitely no more volume as this year, and likely I'm never going to come back to volume of that kind.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of things that I want to do with my life. Not necessarily races, but maybe Appalachian Trail, Colorado Trail.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, Pacific Trails. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it requires early retirement. My work won't give me so much of leisure.
Right.
For vacation.
Okay. Well, Anatoly, it's been awesome hearing all of the story. I really enjoyed the hearing all about your childhood and the sports school. All that's pretty interesting, very fascinating, and of course your awesome year in 2024. And if you do come back into Colorado this year for the Pikes Peak Ascent, definitely let me know, and we'll have to meet up and grab a dinner or something like that. Because I'd like to see you again. And who knows, maybe I'll see you at No Business as well. I might be there potentially just in a support role. But hope to see you at some point in 2024. And I appreciate you coming on. And hopefully 2025 is a great year for you.
Thank you very much, Steven. Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure if, like I said, regardless if I'm going to run or not run Pikes Peak, but I'm planning to come to Colorado because I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I have planned for New Orleans as well. So maybe not in 60 hours, definitely just to walk the trail and to finish 14-14ers in one set. But we'll see.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Anatoly. Well, thank you so much. And we'll chat with you later. All right.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Steven, for having me here.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Adventure Jogger, please consider joining our Patreon and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok for more content like this. Without your continued support, we would not be able to produce this type of content. So thank you so much to everyone that has listened, followed along, subscribed, liked, commented, you name it, donated on Patreon. Thank you.